Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. Today we're doing a conversation with a candidate, and our candidate is Nance Arquiett, who is running for St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators in District 11. And I have a map here of District 11, and it takes in the town of Stockholm, a little bit of the village of Potsdam, and a small part of the town of Potsdam. So Nancy, thank you so much for coming in today. I want to just frame this by saying that conversations with candidates are designed to provide voter education that thoughtfully and civilly discusses issues of public policy and governance vital to our communities. They're nonpartisan, and they invite a candidate to come in and explain his or her positions, records, and ideas away from the 30-second soundbite of a campaign ad and away from the discussion constraints of the debate format. We recently hosted the other candidate in this race, and both shows will be going up on YouTube at the same time later this week. So, as I said, Nancy is running for St. Lawrence County District 11, and we really appreciate you coming in, and we want to give you a moment to tell folks who you are and introduce yourself to viewers who may not know you.
My name is Nance Arquiett. I am originally from Potsdam. I did move and graduate at Messina Central. I then attended SUNY Canton, and from there I began working at a medical office in Potsdam for Dr. Donald Henline. Some people may be familiar with him. I was there for 10 years, and after 10 years decided to become a stay-at-home mom and take care of my children at home. In 2012, I opened a local business, Two Mama Birds. And from a business that began at our kitchen table, we grew into a brick and mortar store. So my business has an online presence, and we also are carried in 16 locations throughout New York State. So we were very blessed to be able to grow and have a great start in the community here. I have 4 children, and they attend St. Lawrence Central School, where I am a sitting board member. Let's see.
Okay,
that's
a good start, Nancy. So, what inspired you to run for the legislature in the first place and this year? What was it that motivated you?
So I've always known that I wanted to get involved. I come from a family that's heavily involved in politics. It's been something that's in my blood and something that I've worked at slowly. I love being part of the community. I love giving back to the community. Why I waited until now is that I have 4 children and a husband, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was on board. I think it's important when you are holding office that you work as a team and your family is part of that team. And once I knew all of my team members were on board and they were ready, and I decided to take the first step. Why I decided to run and what really pushed me is that I see so many of my friends who have children who are graduating from school, and our children are leaving and they aren't coming back. They're graduating with majors that don't make sense for work here, and so they have nothing to come back to. And either they want to support a family here, but they just can't, or there's an available position, but it's already filled, so they have to wait until someone retires. So unfortunately, I have 4 children, and the reality is not all of them will be able to stay here, and maybe they won't want to stay here, but I want to make sure that they have an opportunity. So I want to be part of the process that brings economic development, that recruits job opportunities into the county.
Okay, and that's very important, because that's something that has been generationally true, that people leave and don't come back, and it is tough for families to figure out how to do that. Of course, with your own business now, you have kind of created an opportunity for your kids if they want to stay in your business. It's a good foothold, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So you're one of 9 women who are running this year for a seat on the board. There were no women candidates 4 years ago, and Lisa Bell ended up as a District 15 member when the elected member actually moved out of the district she was appointed. So why, obviously everybody's talking about this being the year of the woman candidate all across the country at every level, and obviously there's interest at the board level with that many women running. Do you think that do you think gender brings an important topic to the discussion to have more women on the board.
Absolutely. I think as a whole, the board should represent the county and all the diversity that we have, and women need to be represented in that board. I think it's taken a while for women to run for office, and I love the engagement that we have now, but I think that there was a lot of stigmas that needed to be broken, and we've had some real trailblazers that have come out and have shown that it's okay to be a mom and run. It's okay to be a grandma and run. It's okay to be, you know, any type of woman in any situation and get out there and run and break those glass ceilings. So, I mean, as a female candidate, I find it most interesting that one of the most asked questions at the door is, how will you run with children? How will you do this? You have children at home. And I think that's very funny because I'm sure they don't ask the male candidates that question.
No, I don't think they do either. And of course, nobody's better at multitasking than moms.
And again, I think that moms are great at multitasking, but when you have a team at home and a supportive family and a supportive husband, you know, I think dads don't get as much credit as they should sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Dads can do it too, and they're just as good as mom. And
right.
But yeah, I think it's been most interesting. That was one of the biggest questions I've been asked: is you have 4 children, how will you do this? How can you run? And I'm thinking, moms can do that. Like we can step out, and we should be representing our children and their needs.
That's right, because children can't vote, and so it's our responsibility as voters to make sure that their needs are being met. So that's a good point. So Nancy, you've already talked about jobs. What would you say are the other critical issues that you see that the County Board of Legislature needs to address?
Besides economic development, and I think that they go hand in hand, I think we need to face the opioid epidemic. I have found personally, this is something that affects my family. We do not have enough beds. We do not have enough treatment. And we need to either start making sure that it's happening here or making sure that we're really reaching out and not taking no for an answer from the state. You know, there's hardly anyone that I know that is not affected in some way, whether it's their neighbor, a cousin, their son, their daughter. We really need to tackle this. I think this is top priority in my triage.
And it's not only young people. This is really something that's affecting a lot of middle-aged and older Americans as well, because of different reasons about why they got onto opioids in the first place, many of which were prescribed for medical conditions.
Absolutely.
And so it is something that it's a real problem. You've identified that, and I want to ask you, do you support the lawsuit that St. Lawrence County has joined with many other New York State counties against the pharmaceutical companies who manufacture and advertise the opioids?
I do support that. We need to have regulations. Unfortunately, we know the effects of opioids. We see what happens. It doesn't take much to become addicted to these opioids, and one thing leads to another, and I don't believe it is the fault of many of the people that have these addictions, and they need our help. And so instead of allowing more and more people to become addicted and allow these ads to be seen and the pharmaceutical companies to be taking advantage, we need to put a stop to that.
Do you see other areas of public health that you think St. Lawrence County needs to address? Are there other issues besides chemical dependency that you are concerned about?
Again, some of these go hand in hand, but mental health is important. I think that many of these, it's a ripple effect. So some of the issues of mental health, they lead into the opioid epidemic or opioid addiction. So it's really just getting a grasp on those, making sure we have enough beds, making sure that our patients are all cared for, that anyone in the county that needs help is getting the help that they need. They're not being pushed off too long. One of the biggest problems I found with the people getting help is, again, there are not enough beds. So you call to get help, you have someone that's ready and willing to be seen, and they don't have a bed for maybe 2 weeks. Well, in 2 weeks, you don't know if they're going to be here. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I want to talk a little bit with you, Nancy, about the social safety net. Traditionally, that part of the budget for social services is always the biggest part of St. Lawrence County's budget. We know that poverty is a real problem in all of rural New York, and certainly here in St. Lawrence County. What do you think the county should be focusing on when it comes to social services and poverty? How can the county board help on those issues?
Well, obviously, as a mother, my big concern is children. You know, we have 46% of our children, 46 or more percent of our children in St. Lawrence County on free and reduced lunches. That means they're living below the poverty line. that means they're probably on social services. So, you know, if anything, making sure that their needs are completely met. It's not a child's fault. You know, some people get very upset about social services and they get angry that people are using these services, and I just need so children need to be taken care of immediately. And education, I think education is a really big tool.
Mm-hmm. It isn't just kids either. 9% of St. Lawrence County seniors are living in poverty as well. So it's a problem that goes across the age span, isn't it?
It is, and I think those are, seniors and children are two groups that really, I don't want to say they get lost. And I don't want to say people forget about them, but it's, for whatever reason, I think that they don't get the representation that other people do.
Okay. The board actually got some good news recently. We're no longer a fiscally stressed county, and the county tax rate is going to be going down this year, according to the most recent news that they're going to have a slight tax decrease, and the fund balance is finally in good shape. So that gives the county a little bit of flexibility financially that they haven't had in recent years as they've been trying to get things back under control. So one of the ways that the county raises money is with a county sales tax, which actually went from 3% to 4% in the last couple years with the current board. Given the widespread poverty and the underemployment in the county, that sales tax really hits people at the lowest end of the economic spectrum quite hard. Do you support a sales tax raise, and do you think there's other ways to raise revenue that don't hit the poor quite so directly?
I think that the rate that sales tax is at right now is acceptable.
Okay.
How can we battle, instead of using sales tax all of the time and just increasing sales tax, we need to consider the fact that the more people we get employed and out of the poverty level, the more money that they will be giving into the community, which will again bring the revenue from the tax that we already have. So increasing taxes, I don't think that right now our population can handle it.
Okay. One of the things that New York State always does is they waive the sales tax on home heating oil. Mm-hmm. The county charges that 4% sales tax, which most of us who live in the North Country recognize that heat is kind of a necessity. Mm-hmm. It's not really a luxury. And so, in fact, I noticed just this week on North Country Now, the sales tax on home heating oil is actually the subject of their 2-week survey. So would you support waiving that tax or continuing it?
I do think it is a necessity. Based on the poverty level and the unemployment rate that we do have now, I would be supportive of waiving it, even for a temporary assistance to the county. I mean, it's the same as giving assistance to through heat or other initiatives. Even if it was a temporary block on the tax, it would at least help people through hard times.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about who works for the county. The county is the county government is one of the big employers up here, needless to say. And do you have a sense of whether the county has too few, too many, or just the right number of employees? It's kind of our Goldilocks question.
Yeah, actually, I took a lot of time during my campaign to meet with the different departments and sit down and see what their needs were. And one thing that I heard overall is that they do not have enough employees, that they have been asked to stretch their needs, and so things are getting done, but not as efficiently. So some of the issues we have, for example, some of the mandates that are refunded by the state could be refunded much faster. So instead of waiting on these refunds to happen, mm-hmm. we could have a temporary employee come in or hire an employee to come in and send these forms and send these back into the state so that we're getting the refunds faster. So I do think that we do not have enough employees.
Do you have a sense of which departments are the most stretched?
I would social services,
right? Too much caseload for the workers?
Yes. And I took some time to go down to social service. I had never been there myself. And I sat in the waiting room and I met with some people, and I would challenge anyone that is running for office to go to social services and to sit and to meet with the department heads and to really reach out to the community and see the different sides. Okay. It's an eye-opener. So yeah. I really think that before you're voting on constituents in different brackets, pay brackets, and different, but you should meet them and see how people are living and the trials that they have, and it was definitely an eye-opener. But I do think that we do not have enough employees in social services.
Okay. One of the big things county government does is roads and bridges. And we know from reports that St. Lawrence County is about 40% deficient in roads and bridges. So that's got to be a priority to get those safety issues taken care of, especially in a county like ours where there are such distances between communities and the only way to get there is by private car for the most part. We simply don't have enough public transportation. So where on your scale of priorities does roads and bridges come and transportation infrastructure?
Oh, infrastructure is a top priority. I mean, you're talking about people getting back and forth to work, children getting safely to and from school. We certainly need improvement. But again, I think that comes down to cutbacks on employees and not hiring new employees, letting go, or people retiring and not rehiring. I think that with the fund balance where it is, and we have a safety net, just like with your household, you know, you have your savings account, you want to make sure that you have that in case of emergencies, but once you have that in your account and you're pretty safe, it's time to take care of your household. So if your roof is falling in, right, you need to take care of your roof. You can have a huge savings account, but if your roof is crumbling, what good is the savings account, right? So it's important to be fiscally responsible, and we're there. So now it's time to start taking care of our people, our roads, and then, you know, the needs of we're talking about social services and fighting against the opioid epidemic, economic development. We need to start reinvesting. Just, you know, I'm a business owner, and when you build your business, I feel like it's similar to the county. You know, you put a little bit of money in, and then you build it up, and then you reassess. What do we need? We need supplies, this and this and that. So you put a little bit of money in, but not too much, because you have a safety net, and then you build back up. And then when you get ready, you have enough to invest. I think that's where we are at now with the county.
So it's time to reinvest.
It's time to reinvest. It's time to fix our roof, you know, and to take care of our families.
So one of the things, Nancy, that we know from the federal level of politics is there's quite a lot of tribalism in it, which is one way it's been described. So all politics is local, and local politics is really about getting things done for the people who live in the same community that you live in. So what are your ideas for working across the aisle? Because we know every 4 years there's always the chance that there's going to be the other party in charge of the legislature. So you might be in the minority, you might be in the majority, but you still have to work with folks. How do you feel about that?
Party affiliation means nothing to me. First of all, when it comes to voting, I will vote whoever I believe is the best candidate, whoever is going to work hardest for the people in my community. I think to tack a title on it really hinders people in their ability, and I am not in this to work for one party. I am in it to work for the community. So
it's about public service.
It's about public service. Yeah, my independent line is called People Over Politics, because I think too many times we focus on the politics and the party, and we forget who we're representing, and you're just wasting time. If you can't come to the table and work together, and forget party affiliation and the agenda that maybe the party has, there's no point in being at the table, right? It's just at a standstill. So I'm ready to work across the table.
So you haven't run for political office before, well, with the exception of school board. Just school board, which is a smaller community, so it's easier to get known. So you've spent a lot of time talking to folks around the district that you probably never met before.
Big district.
Well, yeah, it is a big district. What ideas do you have for keeping that dialogue going, for that kind of community engagement that we want to see last well beyond the run-up to the election?
One thing that I found anywhere that I've gone is most people, I will tell you, no one. I don't want to say most people, no one knew the name of their county legislator, which is really disheartening to me, right? Because you work in any level of politics, you're putting some time in. But what it says to me is people are not engaged and they're not being asked questions. And that's sad, because local politics are the most effect that you're going to have. This is your day-to-day life. This is the money that's coming out of your pocket. Again, your roads, your children being taken care of, making sure that everyone is in your community being cared for. We fight a lot with state politics and federal politics, but this is where you can make a difference. And My intention is to keep my constituents engaged, to keep my community members engaged, and I am committed to holding a monthly meeting at different locations, supporting different businesses throughout the location where we can sit and have coffee. You can reach out to me, what are your problems, what do you need me to bring to the table, what questions do you want me to ask, and I can sit down with my voters and say, here are the issues on the table right now. What do you want me to vote? How do you want me to vote? Because my opinion to make a difference, but I'm not everyone in this district. I know I have 3,900 plus voters. One person is not the person that should make the decision. I need to reach out to them, otherwise it doesn't.
You're actually the first person who's ever said how many people they're going to represent. It's very interesting because you're right, most of us don't know. We know sort of the geographical barriers or boundaries, but we don't really know who is in that district or what we're talking about for numbers, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I want to say I have lived here all my life, and I didn't necessarily know all the boundaries of my district previously, but I've worked really hard to make sure I reach all the boundaries. And again, I need to know the demographics of my constituents. I don't like the word constituents. Community. It's my community. If I'm going to represent them properly.
Okay. Well, I want you to give you a moment now to answer this question, which is what we ask everybody at the end of a conversation. What do you want voters to know about you when they go to the polls? Why should someone vote for you? So give us, give folks something that they can say, if I vote for Nancy, this is what she's going to do.
It sounds funny, but that's always the hardest question for me, because I talking about myself is always something that I don't really like to do. But I want my voters to know that I will represent you to the fullest, and I don't care what party affiliation you are. It does not matter to me. When I do something, I do it at 200% always. I'm able to wear a different hat every place that I go, so when I'm at that table and I'm wearing that hat, you can know that I am doing it to my best ability, and to represent the people in the district and my district. I have no agenda other than making sure that the county prospers, again, for our children, and not just for my children, for everyone's children, and anyone living in the district. I want to know that the community I'm growing up, raising my children in, and that I am going to retire, and I'm never leaving, is prosperous, and is, I don't want to say, certain words don't make sense. You talk in nostalgic times with your aunts and uncles, your grandparents, your parents, and they just have these really good memories. And I feel like lately it's been a little downtrodden, and people have felt very disheartened about the area and the opportunities that are here. And I want to be part of a process that changes that and brings back that light to the community that says, we have people here that believe in that we're making a difference and we're really trying, because I believe that's true. We have some really great people in the community that want to make a difference.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So a reminder to our viewers that Election Day is November 6th, which is coming right up around the corner, basically. If you will not be in the county on Election Day, you can always vote by absentee ballot, and you can get an absentee ballot at the Board of Education, at the Board of Elections in Canton, and you can actually fill it out right there and hand it right in. So it's not that difficult to do, or you can. If you order one by mail, you have to get that in by the request in by the 30th of this month. Elections are decided by the people who vote, so make sure your vote counts. Our time is up. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters, which is filmed here in the Fred W. Cleveland Computer Center of the Potsdam Public Library. This show is a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters and American Association of University Women and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country Matters. Nancy, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.